Hey friends, I hope everybody's hanging in there after a super crazy week this week has been with election day and turning into election week that this has been, especially because there's more to come still. So my prayer for us all during this time is to continue to love our neighbors. So as Casey taught us last week that loving our families is a choice, loving our neighbors is a choice as well. So choose to be kind. Choose to be patient, choose not to be boastful, and choose to be like Jesus in the midst of what seems like the opposite right now. And talking about elections and more unknowns and fun stuff like that, today I want to talk about something that I know for a fact that all of us have experienced lately, which is change. And I don't know about you, but I am really tired of 2020 throwing all these curveballs at me and making me rethink and replan almost everything in my life right now. And I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself, Megan, yes, I get it. We have been tired of change for a while now. Why do we have to talk about this again for like the millionth time on the screen or off the screen? That's because we all know that change happens, but we sometimes desperately wish that something would just stay the same no matter what. So maybe we just want one place or one person or one group or thing that we all know will just be there for us when nothing else feels secure or maybe even safe. And for many of us, we've always considered that to be family. And for others, maybe family has never really been a safe or secure place. But for a lot of us, there's this idea, whether it be from our own experience or a belief that we have, that family should be constant. It should never change. Even if it's not in our own lives, we kind of expect it for some reason. So when change happens in a family, it can be more difficult to deal with. At least that's what it is for me, because growing up I kind of knew that my parents weren't really good together, and I knew that we weren't really the happy family that I thought a family should be. But I still badly wanted that secure place to where we were one big family and that we could count on each other, and I could know that when I went home that everything would be good. And it hurt a lot when my parents got divorced. Even though I saw it coming, I saw the change coming. It was really hard to adjust to having my parents split up and then having to split up my own time and, between two people that I loved a lot. And maybe you haven't experienced family change in that way. Maybe it's something else like a parent losing their job or changing jobs, or maybe they didn't even change jobs, but they've changed schedules, and you don't like that you don't see them as much or as often. Or maybe one of your siblings has moved away to go to college, or you guys don't go to the same school anymore. And at first it was kind of nice because you got this sense of freedom, like being on your own, it was kind of your own thing, but then you just kind of miss them being around and maybe even getting to bicker with them every once in a while. But no matter what our experience is with change, something about it happening in our families just makes it more difficult. It makes it harder. So the question is that I want to talk about today is, if avoiding change isn't possible, how do we get better at handling it? What can we hold on to when everything around us just suddenly feels different than it was before, especially in our families? And so last week, Casey reminded us that God cares a lot about our relationships. And that's why she also taught us how to love our families. So because our families is just one of the many relationships that we're in. And guys, what else God really cares a lot about? It's that God cares a lot about you personally. Besides all of your relationships, he cares about you and who you are. And if you're experiencing change in your family right now, or you have experienced it in the past, or maybe you haven't experienced it yet, but it may still come, I want you to remember these important truths that I have here. So 1, God is with you. 2, God loves you. And 3, God is unchanging. Now, doesn't hearing these truths all of a sudden make what we're going through easy? No. Does it make it enjoyable or something we look forward to? I mean, not necessarily, but I think it does give us hope and comfort that we're not going through our change alone. And that one is one of the things that has really kept me going through a lot of changes that it's been in my life, whether it's been with my family or just general changes. And so there's this one verse that I've always felt pulled back to over the years when changes in my life or family get to be too much for me. And it's this one promise that God makes to his people in the book of Isaiah. And so most people believe that Isaiah was written in a time when the Israelites' world for them was falling apart. Their nation was being overrun by a foreign power, so somebody was taking over their nation, and they were being forced to leave their homes and live in a land with people who spoke different language, who worshiped different gods, and who did not agree with the Israelites' way of life. And so everything that the Israelites knew to be safe, secure, and stable all of a sudden wasn't. And so in the midst of all of that was going on in the Israelites' life, God made this promise to his people. So in Isaiah 43:2, God says to his people, he says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and the flames will not set you ablaze. So let me say that again. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. And when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. Now, I can only imagine the comfort that must have brought the people of Israel hearing it. When everything around them was changing, God wasn't. The same thing is true for us too. In every single moment and every single season of change, including family change, God is with us. He is walking through the difficulty with us, and we are never alone in that. Now, this didn't mean that it got better overnight, or that the Israelites were all of a sudden really brave and strong through all of their changes and it didn't hurt. This promise didn't mean that we'll suddenly be out of the water and have no problems at all. But it does mean that we don't have to face the change, whether that be change for the better or for the worst, alone. And I want to look at one more passage from Isaiah to show you really what I mean. This one's the Message version of Isaiah 41:10. And it says, don't panic. I'm with you. There's no need to fear, for I am your God. I'll give you strength. I'll help you. I'll hold you steady and keep a firm grip on you. And so because of God, we don't have to face change with fear. Sure, I mean, we may panic or be afraid or even feel overwhelmed by the change that we're facing. Those are all very real and understanding feelings that I have felt through almost every single change in my life, whether that be good or bad. But in all of that, God is with us. And not just that, he'll give us the strength that we need to get through it. He'll give us courage to go on. He'll help us and comfort us and love us through it. And he keeps the ground steady for us when it starts to shake, because guys, our world will shake sometimes. There will be things that will shake our world. And for you, that might not be family, but that might be other things. And he's with us and holds us in his hands. His love, comfort, and strength never fails. And that is something we could count on, because it's something that will never change. Because guys, we have a God that will never change. When everything around us changes, we have access to a God that never changes and will never leave us. He will never abandon us. You don't have to feel alone. You don't have to be afraid, because when your family changes, when things change in your life, God is with you. Now, when my parents started fighting really badly, and I felt alone and scared sitting in my room by myself at night when I could hear them through the walls of my room, God showed up and didn't let me be alone. When the change of living in 2 different houses became too much and the weight of it all started weighing down on me, God showed up and didn't let it overtake me. He showed up in people, he showed up in kind words, in nature, in scripture and books, and so many other beautiful ways to let me know that he was right there with me in that moment and that he wouldn't let that change in my family overcome me because he was right there with me. Now, it didn't make it seem any less hard. It didn't seem easy to me. It was really scary and I cried a lot and it was weird, but eventually things became normal and things became routine and there was healing and good that came out of my parents' divorce. It didn't make it any easier, but looking back at it now, I know that I never went through that by myself. Even when I felt alone, I wasn't by myself and I wasn't the only one struggling there with me. And so when things change in our family, whether that be bad or good, big or very small changes, there's a few things that I want us to remember in this. So, one, I want us to remember and remind ourselves and understand that change will happen. So, change is bound to happen, but an understanding that doesn't make change easy to handle, but at least we know that it's a reality in life and everyone deals with it and we're not alone in it, even with our peers. And two, know that God is with you. I know that I've said that a lot, but like it says in Isaiah, whether you pass through the waters or you walk through fire, God will not leave you alone. He will not let those things overtake you. And whatever change you face in your family, he will be right there with you to helping and comforting you. And three, trust that God can use the change to change you. God can use our time of transition and adjustment to grow us in ways that we may have never expected. We can do something God can do something in and through our lives in time of change. And however bad it feels right now, I want you to know that it won't be this way forever. Whether it's in a week or a few years, we know that there is something after this. We just might not see it yet, and God isn't done yet in that change. And if we begin to see change in this way, we can embrace it as something that can take us somewhere good. Whether it be a bad change or a good change, that change can take us somewhere good. And change has the potential to be something that causes us to grow, to mature, and become more of who God designed us to be. Now remember, when your family changes, God is with you. And God puts people in your life to help you through those changes too. I went to my small group leaders and my small group a lot in middle and high school when things changed because they were the people who loved me and wanted to support me. And I know for a fact that that is true for your small groups, and it's the same about you. It's a safe place for you to think about things, to walk through things with other people and process feelings and get help when you are experiencing change in your family. And guys, like, good change can be scary too. Don't feel like just because it's a good change, it isn't something that you might need God or somebody to lean on. So tonight, my prayer for you as a group is to be a safe and open place for each other as you walk through changes of life together. Enjoy your small groups, guys.